the natives, the Filipinos were going through, there was this important moment of a national awareness of national movement, right? It's the national consciousness. And in the 19th century Philippines, it was first known as the propaganda movement that started in the 19th century, and the execution of these three native priests also played an important role because they were very active in the secularization of the priesthood in the colony. And they were excluded by the Spanish authorities. Mariano Gomez, Jacinto, Zamora, and Jose Burgos. So the execution of these three native priests sort of became an important starting point for the propaganda movement. Some of the protagonists of this movement include Jose Rizal, the other national hero, Marcelo del Pilar, and Mariano Ponce. You can see their pictures here. Propaganda movement started out with a proposal, or well, of course, against the Spanish Empire, but their proposal was based on a set of political and social reforms that they wanted to bring to the colony. Not necessarily an immediate separation from Spain, but they wanted more. For instance, they wanted more representation, Filipino representation in the colonial government. They wanted more. They wanted a fair judicial structure. Basic rights to the colonized people in the Philippines, of course. So these, the protagonists of the propaganda movement, propagandista. Can you hear me? Okay. So propagandistas, they were, most of them were educated in Europe, Spain, Germany, England, and they brought these ideas about freedom, liberty, and enlightenment ideologies. They brought these ideas to their home country, patria, right, patria, and then it provoked this moment of nationalism in the country. Here's one picture from the Philippines in the 19th century. And the Philippines is an interesting country because the Spaniards were there for many, many centuries. But after that, it became an American colony. And then after that, in the 20th century, Japan occupied the country. But the Philippines has both Asian and European, Occidental components, which makes it a very unique country, both from both perspectives, right? So how was the Philippines different from the rest of Latin America? Of course, the physical distance between the Philippines and Spain made it difficult for the Spaniards to go there easily. So the Philippines was sort of viewed as first as an important port city in order to maintain these commercial ties to different Asian countries, and second to propagate Catholicism or Christianity, right? And the Philippines continues to be one of the largest and most important Catholic countries in the world, but unlike Latin America, mestizaje, which in Latin America occurs between Europeans and in indigenous population, right, mostly. But in the Philippines, the mestizaje, or the mixturing, right, was between people of Chinese ancestries and Indios, like the native people, and the Filipinos. Filipinos at that time is different from what we know today as Filipinos, because it was the Spaniards born in the Philippines. So it's sort of equivalent of the Creoles in the Americas. It was also an indirect Hispanization in the Philippines, and that's why the language, Spanish language, never became a dominant language in the archipelago, because the Spanish friars were actually encouraged to use the local languages, as I mentioned here, including Bisaya, Ilocano, Ilonggo, Tagalog, in order to communicate with the people, the local people, rather than speaking the imperial language, right? The Philippines has more than 7,000 islands and 170 languages, so it's very diverse, ethnically, racially, and linguistically. Spain, well, as I mentioned, Spanish never became a dominant language, and the Spanish influence was sort of, in a way, again, indirect, and more, I guess, subtle. One of the interesting influences of linguistic influences, I would say, in Tagalog, the Filipino language, right? From Spanish, there's kumusta, Silia, Illos, Caballo, Coche, Carne, Cama, Cerveza. These are some examples of the words that are based in Spanish, right? But written in a different way. For instance, cerveza in Spanish is written with a C, but here it's written with an S. Or cama with a K, but in Spanish it's written with a C, right? Also from Nahuatl, the language, the Aztec language from Mexico, ancient Mexico, Chile, right? Chocolate, which is obviously chocolate. But also other influences, including Chinese, Arabic, Malay, Persian, Sanskrit. So again, it's a very diverse, rich linguistic reality in the Philippines. Okay, so Jose Marti and Jose Rizal are today considered the national heroes, national writers, sometimes viewed as saints, even, or apostles. As you can tell, these guys were contemporary, right? What's interesting is that they never met, face to face, or never wrote to each other. We don't know if they knew of each other through a third party. But the legacies of these two national writers are still resonant today, both in Cuba and the Philippines. These are the monuments, pictures of monuments that I took when I went to Cuba and the Philippines. The images of these two national heroes are ubiquitous in both Havana, Manila, and throughout the islands. Right? Cuba is an island, the Philippines is archipelago, but it has both have this tropical culture, and then other images also include the bills and coins and other monuments in public area, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But the images are, again, everywhere in these countries, and so it's almost impossible to talk about the history and literature and culture of these two countries without mentioning these two national heroes. Okay, thank you. So that's the first part of my presentation. Now I'm going to be reading from this